Welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Now. Before we start today's video, Mailbag video is just a couple of days away, meaning get your Mailbag questions in right now down below in the comment section. Use the hashtag Eagles, type away whatever you want to ask me. I'll pull the 6 or 7 best questions, and so make it a good one. But use that hashtag Eagles down below right now to get your question featured in a Mailbag video coming up next couple of days. All right, let's jump into a different Philadelphia Eagles video today. I want to take a deep dive into the Eagles' running back depth chart because going into the 2021 offseason, Philadelphia's running back depth chart was Miles Sanders and a bunch of nothing, right? I mean, Boston Scott was there, but basically it was a good overall group, but not anywhere near an elite or at least a deep overall group. And yet, a couple of months later, fast forward through free agency, the NFL draft, and then post-NFL draft free agency, and Philadelphia's running back depth chart is diverse. It's massive. They got a bunch of different guys in there. I'm going to go ahead and go through what I think will be the starting 4 players, break down each one of them and their options and possible roles in this offense, as well as the other 4. There are 8 total running backs currently on the roster and where they could eventually end up going into training camps. Let's start right now with our depth chart, and we'll just get into how I believe this is going to go ahead and roll out. I think Sanders, of course, is going to go ahead and be 1. I think you're probably going to have Kerryon Johnson be number 2. Scott and Gainwell are going to battle there for number 3 and 4. Howard will be in the mix as well, and you got Huntley, Holyfield, and maybe even Adrian Killings if he's promoted from the practice squad as well. Again, this is all going to get moved around. A lot of these guys are going to go ahead and be cut, but as you see at the top there, Sanders, Johnson, Scott, and Gainwell, be a lot of competition for reps going into the 2021 season. So let's start with running back number 1. Of course, that is Miles Sanders. Right now, there is no indication that he is going to be seeing a limited amount of touches based on the fact they have added other people. He clearly is the number 1 running back in this offense, but he does come from an up-and-down 2020 season. You remember, he had some really bright spots, some really good games. Think back to the Saints game later on in the year. Was absolutely fantastic in that one, but still, health was a little bit of an issue. Missed week 17 with a knee injury, missed a couple of games earlier on in the season with various other injuries and different needs to be able to sit down and just be able to get healthy. And so if he can be healthy, he clearly is going to go ahead and be the number 1 running back, but he needs to be able to go ahead and stay at that level, or else the guys behind him, we're going to talk about here coming up in just a couple of minutes, will be trying to go ahead and poach some touches away from him. Again, last year, only played in 12 games. The numbers were still pretty darn good for 12 games. Would have easily been a 1,000-yard rusher had he been there for all 16 games. But right now, Philadelphia going into this offseason and really going into the start of the NFL season, they need to get Sanders the football. Like, Sanders needs to be the feature back in this offense. He needs to have the football because he is the best running back on this roster. I like all of the additions. We'll talk about Gainwell, we'll talk about Kerryon Johnson, even Boston Scott, but Sanders is by far the most talented and has a massive boom potential on the upside. I mean, this kid can really become an elite running back in the National Football League. He has all of the tools, and with a healthy offensive line in front of him, creating some massive holes, he can do some serious damage. I mean, this is the best running back Philadelphia has had since LaShawn McCoy, and I'll be honest, I think he has more skill than LaShawn McCoy. If he can stay healthy, he can be better overall than what McCoy was even during his peak and prime in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. So Sanders, of course, is running back 1. Nothing in terms of the additions this offseason should change that. He should 100% get all of the carries that he can potentially have, but then the other guys behind him, if he starts to slip up or get injured, heaven forbid, they're going to start poaching carries away from him, which could be good or bad for Philadelphia. Now, answer this comment down below. How many touchdowns will Sanders have in 2021? Only 6 in his 12 games last season. I think it's going to be up to 10. I think the expectation, the hope, is going to be 8, 9, or 10, maybe 13 total with a couple of receiving touchdowns. How many TDs will Sanders have in 2021? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Let's move on to what I think will be, or who I think will be, running back number 2. I think it's going to be Kerryon Johnson. I talked about it a couple of days ago. I love this addition. I think on Friday, whenever they signed him, I was shocked that they were able to get him off of waivers. Atlanta at 4 didn't make a pitch for him, which is crazy. They have no money, though, so great that he fell all the way to number 6 in terms of the waiver wire. A great one-year addition, very, very cheap. You know, he still has to make the roster to be able to get paid, and so it's a win-win for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a guy who's flashed early on in his career, second-round draft pick, obviously out of the University of Auburn. He dealt with injuries and then wasn't really used much in 2020 despite being healthy the entire year. And if you look overall at his entire career, never had more than 650 yards in a single season. And so here's a guy, again, a second-round draft pick expected to be an elite running back in the NFL who just hasn't had the opportunity really to do that, sitting behind DeAndre Swift and Adrian Peterson in Detroit. This is a guy, I think, who needs at least probably 7 to 8 to 9, maybe even 10 touches a game. I mean, he should be able to be the other running back rotating with Miles Sanders. He's a little bit bigger than Miles Sanders, a little more of a pounder than Miles Sanders, likes to go up the middle. And so a 1-2 punch of Sanders, obviously the running gun in terms of out of the shotgun and rolling out and catching balls out of the backfield, and then Kerryon Johnson on the short yardage, just wanting to beat people up down the middle through the A or B gap. This can be a great 1-2 punch. I said earlier, again, You don't want a scenario where Miles Sanders is losing touches to anybody, but if he were to get injured, or if you wanted to just get a little bit of a change up from a running back perspective, Johnson is that guy. And I do really think he's going to win out and be the number 2 running back. He has all the skill to go ahead and do so, and I'm really pumped that he's a Philadelphia Eagle. Even if he's not that great, the depth that he's going to go ahead and provide at this position, especially if Sanders does continue to struggle with injuries as he had in his career, is fantastic. This was one of the better, more underrated moves Philadelphia had all offseason long, and I am a huge fan of what Johnson can bring to the table. Now, let me ask you guys this. Who has more touches in 2021? Because this is a real debate that's going to be had and a big battle going into training camp. Kerryon Johnson or Boston Scott? Because Scott was kind of that number 2 second running back behind Miles Sanders and then filled in when Sanders was injured and did a pretty darn good job. So who has more touches in 2021? Type J down below for Johnson or type S down below for Scott. Before we go ahead and keep going, make sure you guys subscribe to Philadelphia Eagles now. Just past 18,000 total subs. First off, thank you for that. But more importantly, hit the subscribe button because tomorrow the NFL schedules come out officially. 8 p.m. tomorrow night, they're going to be announced, maybe a little bit before that as well. We're going to break it all down here, especially the Eagles schedule, obviously, on Philadelphia Eagles Now. So we'll go week by week and show you which teams they're going to play on the road, at home, the primetime games, the Thursday night game. I mean, everything is going to be broken down here. We're going to do it for you guys on this channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed, and that way you get the schedule released as soon as we pop it up here on YouTube. So go down below, hit the red subscribe button, and hit the notification bell as well. Okay, before we go ahead and, well, actually, let's go ahead and jump into Kenny Gainwell right now. Excuse me, Kenny Gainwell comes in here at number 3 on my depth chart. I think he will be the number 3 running back, but could very well be the number 2 running back if Kerryon Johnson were to be an absolute bust. Again, I like Johnson. I think he should be running back number 2 for that kind of second option there behind Miles Sanders, but the reason they got Kenny Gainwell, and the fact that he fell to the 5th round one is fantastic, but the reason they got him is because he's very much like Miles Sanders. He's in the mold of the Miles Sanders in terms of being explosive and elusive running back who's also fantastic catching the ball out of the backfield. I mean, this kid is absolutely insane at catching the ball out of the backfield because it's just what Memphis really wanted him to do. Not only can they turn around and hand the ball off, they also can go ahead and really, I mean, get in the football in space, like the Eagles try to do with Miles Sanders. So even though he opted out of the 2020 NFL season, he still, to me, was an elite running back prospect going into the NFL draft, and for whatever reason fell all the way to Philadelphia in the 5th round. Not complaining. Now, Gainwell, just because he looks great on paper, and to me is going to be a very good running back, is not a guarantee. He's the wild card in 2021. He's the wild card of this depth chart in 2021 because he's either going to kind of fall to the wayside and not get a lot of touches because Kerryon Johnson's going to play well, and you obviously have Boston Scott who knows a lot more about the NFL than Gainwell does, or Miles Sanders is going to have so many touches that no one really gets touches behind him, or he's going to explode out onto the field, and you're going to have a 1-2 punch, or maybe even a 1-2-3 punch of Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, and Kerryon Johnson that teams are going to have a real hard time stopping. And again, the reason behind all this is the wild card ability of Kenny Gainwell. Again, as you go into this depth chart, just remember back to what it looked like before the start of the offseason, even back to what it was last year. I mean, they had nobody at running back and really had no options whenever Miles Sanders needed to be spelled to go ahead and get a rest, or he was injured. They now have 3 guys, really, that are brand new besides Miles Sanders in terms of Kenny Gainwell, Jordan Howard, and Kerryon Johnson, who can be very, very good going into the season. I'm pumped that we got Kenny Gainwell. Okay, before we go ahead and keep going, I did mention running back number 1, and what will be running back number 1 this year will still remain Miles Sanders, and his jersey right now can be bought in all different sizes for all different colors, and obviously for men and women as well. Chatsports.com/miles is your link to go ahead and find the NFL Nike edition, all the official stuff, not that knockoff stuff from overseas. This is the real deal Nike jerseys, are all there at that link, chatsports.com/miles. That link is down below in the description box right now. So pick one up. They got the midnight green, which is my favorite. They got the black, which they always win in, the white as well for the road stuff. All the different sizes, all the different options, men's, women's, kids. I mean, everything you see on your screen right now. And it's still the official Nike stuff too, so it's legit. Go ahead and buy it right now. Pick one up, chatsports.com/miles. Okay, let's get into the other running backs on this depth chart who can compete for time, but I don't think are going to be anywhere near the starting rotation. I think Boston Scott's getting bumped down. I think it's just inevitable with the fact that you have the additions of Kenny Gainwell and Kerryon Johnson. You wouldn't have gotten both of them if you felt very confident in Boston Scott. Now, they did have a chance to let him go this offseason if they wanted to, and then he signed his exclusive rights free agent tender this offseason and had been, listen, a solid backup for Miles Sanders. No hate towards Boston Scott. He got the Eagles out of a lot of different situations over the past couple of years, including the Giants game last year. But I think he just is going to lose the rotational spot here because the overall potential in terms of skill and ceiling for Johnson and Gainwell are just a lot higher than Boston Scott. So maybe they keep him there as running back number 4. I'd much rather have him over a lot of the other running backs we're going to talk about here who are not going to be on the list but still are technically signed by Philadelphia. But I do think he's getting bumped down this year, and that's important to go ahead and note because this was what once was a starting running back for Philadelphia when Miles Sanders was injured at certain points during the 2021 NFL season. So we'll see. I would love Scott to stay. I'm not anti-Scott. Greg Ward and Boston Scott have been 2 big reasons why Philadelphia even won football games the past couple of years because they're undrafted free agent guys who work their way onto starting spots and they deserve everything in terms of success in the NFL. But you look at this depth chart, it has changed a lot and gotten a lot thicker in terms of the depth that they have, and the excitement of Gainwell and Johnson to me overshadow what Boston Scott has done the past couple of years. Okay. We're going to end on this because there are other running backs, but these are the ones that are either going to be practice squad guys or they're going to be cut. The Eagles did sign Jordan Howard over the offseason. He played a little bit last year, but they re-signed him kind of again. I don't see how he beats out Kerryon Johnson for that kind of goal line short yardage back. I mean, maybe he does. Maybe he beats out Boston Scott, and Scott's the guy who gets cut or sent down to the practice squad. But I do think that Howard's going to have a hard time making this roster. Elijah Holyfield, who a lot of people really wanted to be the short yardage back and never really got to be the short yardage back. I could see him again being a practice squad guy. Also could be cut. You still have Adrian Killings and Jason Huntley who are on the roster as well. But again, you can't keep 8 running backs in total. The most you probably keep is 4. And so the 4 we talked about beforehand, in terms of Sanders, Kerryon Johnson, Kenny Gainwell, and Boston Scott, have a much higher chance of making their roster to me than the 4 you see on your screen right now. Rate the Eagles running back room at the end of this video right now. Scale of 0 to 100. To me, it was at like a 60 going into the offseason. It's at like an 85, maybe even a 90 right now. I mean, this is a very solid running back group, and I think no one can tell you differently. If someone tells you, oh, they're all not that great, stop. This is a very deep depth chart, and the fact Philadelphia is able to get all of these guys signed and added to the roster is very, very exciting, especially for young Jalen Hurts, who, if he has a running game behind him, an offensive line in front of him, and wide receivers to throw to, could be poised for a very successful 2021 campaign. Again, what we have for today here on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm your host, Thomas Mott, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.